Hey, welcome to another podcast with Neck Roots. I'm Kit, and we got another interview coming to you today, and we're with my good friend Dave Hautau. And Dave and I have been friends for a long time. We met working together out in the trenches on job sites, and we just became good friends and brothers through hard work, man. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Hard work and struggle, and
That's
so.
right.
Dave was always there. I would see him on site, and he would see my kids because I always brought my kids to the job site. And they were always happy to see you, Dave, because I said, why you always run over to see how Dave's doing? They're like, man, he always happy. He's smiling, and he's friendly. So that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You have really great boys, and thanks for having me, kid. It's a blessing to be here. Have been a fan of your show for a long time now. Never thought I'd actually be sitting in the hot seat, but here we are.
You on the hot seat, bro.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So you know what? We don't really have a topic today because we've covered so many topics and so many things. And I know as we sit here and talk, there's our messages between each other and our conversations are always hope filled and they're good. And you're always happy. And I'm always, staying up and trying to keep from running down that rabbit hole, right? Keep our mind right.
Yeah, that's right, man. As long as I've known Kid, man, he's been one of a kind, man. You've truly been a friend and an inspiration to me, and definitely have kept me rooted, helped me keep grounded, and really know my worth, and help me really understand that.
I appreciate it, man. It takes a whole village to keep us going, doesn't it?
Sure does. It sure does. That's a true story. True story.
Yeah. So, and my boys, I mean, they look up to you, and always you've spent a lot of time with them, and I don't know what it is, but Dave always has a smile on his face. He can show up wounded one day, and guess what? Shows through. Not the shiner on his eye, those pearly whites. You know what I mean? He's always smiling. So,
oh man.
So Dave, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Give a little background. Maybe. Some of your interests, what you like, and where you went to school, and hobbies, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So I was born and raised here in Salt Lake City, of Tongan descent. Both of my parents were immigrants here from the small island of Tonga in the Pacific Ocean. I grew up in the avenues just east of the capital. There, went to West High. Pretty much, born and raised in Salt Lake City. Always grew up playing sports, active. My dad coached us in anything he could: soccer, baseball, football. But I really took up to the athletic side of things, and there's not a sport with a ball that I don't think I can't play.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, and you were a football player and even rugby.
Yeah, for sure. So rugby, by just trait and upbringing of the Polynesian background, that's just in our DNA. So playing rugby, we grew up with a rugby ball and naturally just transitioned into football as well. I pursued a career in football in college and thought I was going to make the big leagues and put all my eggs in that basket, but that was a road that quickly ended.
It did? Because you put all your eggs in that basket, man.
Pretty much, man. Just being young and not really having a lot of mentors or people in my corner. I believe it or not, I flew out to LA not knowing where I was going to live, with the desire to pursue football, athletics, and a college education. Landed in Pomona, California, with a suitcase and no plan. Got off the airplane, and while I was on the airplane, my dad was on the phone calling everyone and anyone he could in LA, looking for a place for his boy to to stay.
Crash.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm grateful for that because he had a niece that actually lived in LA for quite a long time, and at that time she had just bought a house out in Fontana.
Oh, wow.
So I got off the airplane and opened up my cell phone and had a voicemail from her, and she said, "Hey, your dad called, said you're coming down here to play football and pursue some college. We're not home, but this is the code for the garage,
Oh,
and
wow.
make yourself at home, and we'll see you when we get home." But I didn't waste no time, man. I took her up on that offer, got to her house, looked up the nearest bus route and everything like that, and got on a 4-hour bus ride and was guessing and hoping I'm on the right bus to the college I was headed to. And
Wow.
fortunately, I made it there.
Yeah, bro, that's the definition of faith right there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people maybe don't really realize the power that they behold. When you got a desire and that desire is something that you really, really, really want, you'll figure out a way.
Yeah, no matter what. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because there's so much power within us. And you know what? It reminds me of the Rocky movie. It's you against you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
He's like, that guy's strong. He's like, it don't matter what that guy's doing. It's you against you. Every day, bro, even you and I, as we sit here, right? We've shared a lot of experiences together, but it's always us against us. You know what I mean? It's you against you.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes down to that saying that everybody always talks about, man. It's you ain't got nothing to prove but to yourself.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And the thing is a lot of people look at themselves and don't realize the value that they hold. They second guess themselves. They don't have confidence in themselves. But if they look at it from a different perspective, like I'm made out more than what I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just got to tell yourself that. You know what I mean? You got to believe in that. You got to be like, I'm not where I want to be. I know I'm more capable of what I am now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's so crazy because as we grow, we learn.
Right.
And some of those things aren't good that we learn, right?
Nope.
We need to unlearn some of the things that we grew up with, some of those fears and really the pressures and sight of the way the world sees us.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we came to this earth with all the value we need. We don't need any more value or validation. We came with it, right? And I think you're right. Believing in ourselves is one thing, but you know what I realized over my lifetime is believing that we deserve it is also a real strong caveat, right?
100%. 100%. A lot of people go through life that's unfulfilled because whatever reason it is, they know they deserve it, but they don't believe
That they deserve it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the key.
It is.
A lot of people don't understand the power in believing in yourself, man. Words are like spells, man. When you tell people something that'll just do them wonders, it'll be their world. Like, these kids who grew up without fathers, mothers, but they get that coach who's inspirational. He has the right words. He tells them, "Hey, I'm proud of you, son."
Yeah. 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 But you know what? People will do a lot more for that. They'll do more for less than they will for something monetary. Just having that, "I'm proud of you," bro, that'll keep you going for another minute. You know what I mean?
No, that'll keep you going for miles.
Right?
There's nothing that will motivate and inspire an individual because it hits them so deep. There's nothing else that can compare to that feeling that you give to them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, through your challenges of pursuing football, what are some of the things that you learned from when you realized, hey, you know what, my career in football is over? It's like, what was the mind shift? What was the stick and move that you did that said next, or did you say, I'm gonna be over here sucking my thumb in the fetal position for a minute?
No, that's a good question, man. To be honest with you, my football career was a hard one. It taught me resilience. It wasn't easy. I didn't have mom and dad there financially to support me. I slept on a couch for a couple semesters. I worked jobs where security jobs where I'd be up late till about 2 a.m. And then I'd have to be up about 5:30 a.m. for morning football workouts and then class afterwards. So I was like a zombie. And then on top of that, had to fend for myself and feed for myself because at that time, the scholarship that I had was only a partial scholarship, and I wasn't able to get the full scholarship where they provide meals and stuff. And so I had to scrap my way through college. But to answer your question, I pursued football all the way until I knew that there was nothing else in it. I didn't leave any skeletons in the closet, and now I don't even watch football. I
That's
don't.
awesome. You don't have a regret for, you ran that course hard as you could.
Absolutely.
There's something to be said about that, for sure.
I emptied that gas tank to all the fumes that I can get out of that thing,
Yeah.
and I don't have any regrets. I knew I gave it my all, and at that time, I was young, still pretty dumb and
Unexperienced.
unexperienced, but I think timing is a big thing for people. At that time, I don't think making it to the league would have been very beneficial for me.
Right.
Being young, and a lot of people don't understand. These NFL players, when they go into the league, they're still young. They're still young men. They're
Bro, they're
21.
yeah.
They're 22 years old, and they wake up the next day. They got $60 million in their bank account.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have did with myself with that much money.
You would have come and said, yo, kid, check it out. I want to buy a ranch, right?
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah, you're right.
How I knew it was done for me is that I just came to that point where there weren't very many more options for me to pursue it. I started going to college late as well, so I didn't start playing ball and going to college till I was 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I was already behind the ball. And then on top of that, I had a child. Unexpectedly, I had a kid, and that's what really kind of turned the direction in my life where this ain't cutting out anymore, and it ain't putting food on the table, and it's not as reliable and sustainable as I thought, and that's where I ended up in the construction industry. I went to college for business and communication, trying to get away from that stuff because that's where I grew up in and didn't enjoy it, but life is funny that way.
Life is funny that way.
Yeah.
And you know what? It seems like we're always trying to get away from what we grew up in. And then as time goes on, you realize how much you miss a certain thing. I'm not saying you don't miss getting up and grinding it out. Like, you know what I mean? Some days it gets heavy, right?
Yeah.
About the end of the week after 4 a.m.s and the unknowns or whatever, right?
For sure.
The elements. It gets heavy, but the truth is that what we try to get away from, we always gravitate back towards, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact that you said, hey, I had a kid, and so that was easier to make that decision, right? Bro, I don't think there's anything more important in this life, and I call it a calling because it is a calling, right? Whether it's unexpected or not. To be a father, bro, is, man, that's, if I get everything wrong, when my time's over and I take a dirt nap, and Peter says, yo, bro, you got 10 things wrong and 1 thing right, I'm going to say, which one? Now you were a good dad. Bro, I don't care about the other 9. I'm winning. You know what I mean?
1,000%. 1,000%. I think that's the true love and care that fathers have, and that's an innate characteristic that's not taught.
Yeah. No, it's not taught. Like the kids don't come here with instructions, right? We take kind of our background and our past from our fathers or the lack of or whatever it is, whatever your situation is, and we try to put it together with what we see that we want to do or how we want to parent, right? But, bro, it's just, I mean,
Doesn't work that way.
there's no instruction manual,
No.
and there's no instruction manual that says how to be a good father. But I tell you what, bro, 2 things, love and time, going to make up most of that manual.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing is time, kid. We never know how much time we got on this world, and that's something that resonated with me a lot. I was blessed to work for a contractor my last year in college. He's a successful contractor, but the time that he spent building his company sacrificed a lot of time when his kids were growing up. And that's one of the things that he told me was one of his biggest regrets was if I could go back in time, I'd spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
And at that time, he had grandkids. And so he took advantage of that and spent as much time as he could with them grandkids. But just those little life lessons for me, I've been blessed to really be an observer and kind of more of a deep thinker. And I feel a lot more with people.
Yeah.
I think it's me, it's more deeper.
Yeah.
A lot of people are surface. And if you really get to know me and who I am, I'll give you the shirt off my back. It don't matter what time of day it is. I can have nothing and I'll give you everything I got because I know in myself I'll be blessed in return somehow, some way, but I can do that.
And I know that about you. And not just about you, but about your people. It's like both my boys in Caden's in Seattle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the singles ward, serving them. And I go, you like it? He goes, yeah. All the Tongans are over here. All the brothers are over here. He's like, I'm eating good, and we have a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
And it's like, shout out to Dave. I'm like, all right, I'll let him know. So
my guy.
So that's, you also point out something very interesting and picking up those little nuggets through life. I mean, we didn't have kids for 8 years, and it was a real emotional struggle. It's like for some places in the United States or in some people's situations, 8 years is normal to go without kids. And where we were at in our life, we were ready to have kids, and it took us a long time. And we'd gone through miscarriage, and we go to the doctor, and he's like, okay, dude, this is what you got to do. We pay this doctor a lot of money to check my temperature and say, now's the time. I'm like, okay. I'm standing on my head and freaking holding my breath and breathing right. And I'm like, okay, babe, I'm ready. I mean, really? Right? And so truth is, it was an emotional up and down and up and down. And it was harder on my wife, I think, than anything. But when we had kids, it was, it's so funny looking back. Because when you look back, Dave, I wasn't ready.
Right.
Dude, I was fifth gear, hair on fire. My nickname was Hyper Diaper. If you looked at me wrong, I'd split your lip, right? You can't raise boys into men in that environment, right? And so it was probably good that it took us 8 years. But I'll tell you what it did is it gave me that time to ask those questions. I had a very wealthy guy, friend of mine, and he was on his deathbed, and I asked him questions, and he said, I wish I could go back in time and spend more time. He goes, I always knew how much money I had, but I could never tell you how much time I had left. Right?
And that's so true.
Man, it's so powerful when you hear that. And so I had another guy tell me, he's like, we were fishing. He's an attorney. He says, see the water going past us right now? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that molecular structure of water will never pass the same bank where we sit in its lifetime.
Wow.
And so goes the minutes.
Right.
Right. And so it really, really, man, it just made me realize as soon as my kids could tell me they were hungry and tell me that they needed to go to the bathroom, bro, I was like, see, I had the kids with me. You know what I mean? She's like, I see how it is. Right. But I'm so grateful for that. Right. At the time, it was like, oh, it's difficult. Why can't I have kids? Right.
Yeah.
And you look back and you're like, wow, I look at it like they were special enough that I needed to rise to the occasion and I needed to be ready to be a good dad.
Absolutely. I agree on that 100%. I never thought I'd have kids.
Really?
Yeah. When I was in college, I was 20 years old. I was dating a lady. She was 34 years old, man. She was the love of my life. I thought I was going to marry her and we were going to be happily ever after. But with women and their time clock, having kids at that age is what's the word for
risk?
it?
High risk.
It's pretty low, you know. But anyways, this little boy came to me and made me be a man and grow up, and I'm blessed with 2 now. And when life gets rough, I think about how much joy they bring to me.
Yep.
There's no other joy in this world that you can compare to what your kids bring you.
No.
And especially at the ages that they're at. You know what I mean? I got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and yesterday sitting down with my son, he just opened up to me and just started talking to me, and I'm like, this is new. This is
Yeah,
cool.
it is cool.
And as an adult, you gotta recognize those times. You know what I mean? You can't be caught up in life so much that you're just blinded to it. You know what I mean? You gotta really relish those moments.
You got to be where you are.
Yeah, in
Because
the
you could
moment.
physically be there, but if you were
Yeah.
on your phone going, hang on, kids asked me to do a podcast, and you listening, but you're not listening.
Exactly.
You hearing, but you're not listening.
Exactly. And to see the joy in his face and him genuinely talking to me, I'm his dad.
Yeah.
I'm his best friend. He doesn't know anything else but me, his dad,
Yeah.
until he grows older and figures out his own road.
Yeah.
But right now and right here, like, me and him, we're inseparable, you
Yeah.
know, and that's what I love about it, is that this time in their life, I only have a window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
You know, and when that window closes, I'm not gonna be able to get it back. I'm not gonna be able to say, hey son, we're gonna go do this.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. You're coming with me.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a day where he's like, well, Dad, I got some other things going on. Sorry, I
Yeah.
can't make it.
Got this thing called a party with my friends. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
You know
for
what?
sure.
Something I'll tell you that's interesting. And I told you, in raising my boys, how many summers I got, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got 18 summers. That's how I see it with my boys. I got 18 summers, and that's it.
Yep.
That goes fast, bro. I didn't care who their teacher was or parent-teacher conference. That was not my gig.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you who their parent. I know they graduated and they did good, but I had 18 summers with my boys, and I spent it every moment I could with them because of that.
Yep.
And I'm glad I did, because you know what? When they get out on their own and they get married, because, my oldest just got married, and it's different, bro.
Yeah.
And I always looked at it when I was younger that, well, once they get there, they're on their own. And you know what the truth is? I take all that back, bro. I'm going to unlearn that, because that's when they're starting their life, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they need us most, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your son's you're the hero right now. You wear a cape,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And those are precious moments. And then his friends might be a little bit more interesting than that cape, right?
Yep.
Until you flex on him, right?
You got to remind them.
Yeah, you got to remind them. But then there will be a time when they're starting their life and they'll be like, yo, how do I go about it, right? I think I personally probably needed more guidance in my early 20s than I did, when I was younger.
Yeah.
Or at least just the same amount, but in a different setting, right?
Yeah.
With a different set of eyes. And so I think, we in the world, they tell you, hey, man, once he's 18, he's on his own. No, bro. Why? Why go about it alone, man? I mean, they got to go spread. I let my son go get his job and spread his wings so he can figure it out for himself. I think that's important. But it's the advice and the mentorship. Does it stop? No.
No.
It'll never stop, man.
No. You want to be that person you're their best friend for the rest of your life, no matter what, man. You got to look at it that that's your offspring, man. The apple ain't gonna fall far from the tree, man. And a lot of times when young men grow into older men and try to find their way, they look at how they were brought up.
Yeah.
They look up.
Yep.
They look at, well, my dad didn't do that. Well, my dad did it this way. Well, this is how I was raised.
Yep.
We don't do it that way. That influence has so much impact on an individual's life, on how they mold their self, and that impacts generations, man.
It does.
You look at, I'm blessed that I have an individual in my life. He's been a mentor to me as well, but he's a doctor, and he did his residency in Baltimore, man. And there the pregnancy rate with young girls is really, really high.
Is it?
Yeah, and it's out this world. I mean, for lack of better words, I apologize, but he says that generational things that happen, it takes 7 cycles, like generation wise, for that to kind of undo itself, man. That's wild.
That is wild. And you know what? No matter what, even if you say, I'm going to be the guy that breaks the cycle, I'm going to be different. I think to a degree you are different, but there are certain trauma responses, if you call it, from your past that they're just ingrained in you, and you do things like the way you were raised or whatever, right? And for better or for worse, and for people that maybe didn't have a father, and the beautiful thing about that is, it doesn't matter what cards you were dealt; it just matters how you play them, and so you can even say, "Hey, I want to be that father that I wish I had," right? And that's okay too.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what, whether you got the support or no support, it don't change a thing, man. You are the author of the book, right?
You write your own story.
But it is so important to raise them up right.
You hit it right on the head, man. You know, there's things that you do that you don't think will influence and have repercussions years on down the road.
Yeah. Or regrets.
Yeah, or regrets, man. And so, you know, it's just really important to take that time and really live in the moment.
Yeah. You know what? There's something important about being where you are and unplugging. And you know the battle I have with my kids all the time. I'd give them the flip phone and then call them flip, you know, and I'd give them the dumb phone, whatever. I'd take their smartphone away and give them the dumb phone, and it'd be like, freak. And
they'll remember that.
Yeah.
You know, they'll remember that and be like, hey, well, then I'm sure there'll be a time in their life they might do the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know if the flip will still be around,
but in a different, you know, in a different way.
Yeah. I just hand them a walkie-talkie. So I told them that's the next level. I said, don't complain about the flip, son, because you're going to be breaker 19 if you keep it up.
Two-way radio.
Within 5 miles. Stay close to home. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, is there anything that you would like to share, man, with the listeners that's on your mind?
Yeah, man, it's don't give up, man. You know, life is rough.
It is. It's not easy for any of us, man.
It'll beat you up, man. You know, you brought that up about Rocky earlier, man. It's not always about sunshines and rainbows, man, or about how hard you can get hit. You know, that's one thing I always tell myself. It's about how hard you can get hit and get up and keep getting hit and keep getting up. You know, I don't think people really understand, like we mentioned it before, like the power that you behold. Once you find that power and know how much power you have over yourself and what you control and how much that impacts yourself and others, man, there's no stopping that.
You're absolutely right. That momentum takes over.
Yeah.
And there's no stopping that.
No.
Momentum's a funny thing, bro. We got to keep it going the right direction. Keep getting up.
Hell yeah.
Keep fighting. Because you know what? It's worth the fight. And truthfully, bro, I know you've been through a lot of tough things, and so have I. And I've watched you be that key that unlocks someone else's prison with that smile, with that attitude. And you always, no matter how heavy things are, bro, I got to give it to you. You put that smile on like you done rope the moon, even when it's heavy. You know what I mean?
Thank you, man. I've been blessed, man. And I look at it like God's given me broad shoulders that I can withhold a lot of things that a lot of people can't, you know, and I pride myself on that. I've been given trials in my life that I need to overcome so I can be able to, you know, inspire others.
Yep. And that's what it's all about. It's us against us, but guess what? Don't let that stop us from spreading that hope and shining that light, right?
Nope.
So at Neck Roots Podcast, we always pound through, and I have to ask you, Dave, why do you think it's important to remember your roots?
Man, that's a deep one, Kit. It's so important to me to remember my roots because of the sacrifices that my parents and my grandparents made. For me to come here and not succeed and not stand on their shoulders would be an insult to them. It'd be a smack in their face to them for me. I've got to grow vertically. I can't come here and do what I do and be just the average person when they went through so much just to make it here to give me a chance at life for a better opportunity. I can't stand shoulder to shoulder with my dad. I've got to stand on his shoulders so I can see out further and you know, wider than I would be able to if I was just to stand next to him being the average person. They've sacrificed so much for me that I can't sacrifice their sacrifice, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And for me, I hold it dearly to myself, to always remember my roots, because that's what keeps me grounded. That's what keeps me going. That's what reminds me of who I am, who my parents were, who my grandparents were.
Yeah.
And that's so important. What a lot of people lose is that you are somebody. It doesn't matter where you came from or what you're going through in life. Your family is who you are, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get caught up in the world and the things that are work and that consume them on a day-to-day basis, that that it becomes numb to them.
Yep.
But it's always good to just remind yourself, like, hey man, I came from people who actually did something. I came from people who took a risk. I came from people who wanted a better life.
Yeah. And when you say better life, you're not talking about a shinier car, a bigger house, or whatever. You're talking about a better life, because there's a difference between designing a lifestyle, making a living. And when they made that sacrifice to come here, it was for freedom and choice and opportunity for the generations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I went back to my dad's island where he was raised, and this was in 2002. They still didn't have electricity. They didn't still have running water. We were taking bird baths and things like that. So it really opened up my eyes to where my dad came from.
So just normal on the job stuff, right?
Pretty much. Trick question.
No, but you know what? Riddle me this. In 2002, they didn't have running water, right? Is that what you're saying?
No running water, no electricity.
Okay. But I will guarantee you they were happy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why?
They had everything that they needed.
Right. We don't need as much as we think, huh?
Absolutely.
Man, simplify and believe.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I feel like sometimes the pressures and the visions and just the outward, just the world, through media or through whatever, right? It gets into our minds, and bro, there are people buying clothes they can't afford to impress people they don't even like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing we just wear boots, right? But
for sure.
But you can get caught in that trap real easy, and those are the things that, going back there, I bet you that was humbling for you to go back there and see the island and see where your father's from.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, I think that's where it's important on the validation. Like, people are trying to get validation from other people who they can't even validate themselves.
Yeah. And those are the quickest ones to actually criticize instead of validate.
Exactly. And that's where you've got to qualify and know who you're trying to validate yourself with. Like, the person you're trying to keep up with, man, he's trying to keep up with you and he doesn't even know it.
And then he's trying to keep up with the guy that you don't like that lives down the street. So truth is, you're trying to be like the guy you don't like.
And it's just a big cycle, and all it is just unhappiness, man.
Be you. It's okay to be
true to yourself. Be true to yourself, man. And know who you are. Search out. Do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
That's what I've had to do. I've had to scale back, and I've been trying to chase this dream for the last 10 years, and it's been a roller coaster. But at the end of the day, I've had to fall back and actually look at myself and do a self-assessment of what makes me happy, what truly makes me happy.
Right.
And it was as simple as going back to the gym, taking care of myself, taking care of my health.
Yep. I saw that when you started going back to the gym, bro. You got all swollen again.
No, man, just maintenance,
Yeah.
That concrete ain't light.
No, it's not. I told my boys, it ain't like raking leaves, boy. Get into it.
Yeah, no, it ain't.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I love you, and I appreciate you joining us and sharing a little bit of your experience and outlook on life, bro.
For sure. Hey, thanks, kid. I love you too, man. It's been a blessing to have you in my life, and the influence that you've done had impacted on me, and I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
And you know what? Take this message of hope, subscribe, like, send it to whoever you can. Let's get these messages out there. Let's shine a light in a dark place. Bless up.
Bless up.